Yeah, we should be like, hey, Zach, do you celebrate your dating anniversary?
Where is Zach?
Zach just does our mixing.
Zach does the post mix.
Oh, hi, Zach. Zach's the best.
Zach is great.
Zach is the best.
You know what, though? You know what I hate about Zach is that he just has, like, these 2 kids, and it, like, takes away from him being able to hang out with us and, like...
Imagine having kids.
You know? God, kids are the worst. Oh, my God.
On this episode of Sips and Clips, we sit down with Amelia Allwarden, ACE, a New Hampshire native and television editor whose credits include Westworld, Dune Prophecy, Pen 15, and Little Fires Everywhere. Amelia shares how an unexpected DVD bonus feature first sparked her love of editing, how the ACE internship became her guiding star in college, and how a millennial dream of working at BuzzFeed evolved into a career in television. We talk about the importance of having advocates and passing that torch forward, the value of friendship and community in editorial, and what it takes to navigate the world of agencies. Finally, Amelia opens up about making the leap from assistant to editor and how joining ACE marked the fulfillment of a lifelong dream.
All right, well, welcome to this episode of Sips and Clips. My name is Leanne McFalls.
My name is Michael Schusterman.
And today we have the legendary, one and only Amelia Allwarden. I think if Esther Sokolow is the most mentioned person on this podcast, Amelia Allwarden has to come in a very close second.
Thank you for having me. I feel very honored to be the second most mentioned, potentially. And if I could lose to anyone, it would be Esther.
I don't know. I feel like Shelby Hall's getting up there, too. We'll see.
Shelby, Esther, Ben, Amelia. Oh, and maybe Hanukkah.
Yeah. Who's your top 10 of the year?
We'll run it all through chat. We'll run all of the episodes through ChatGPT and say who are the most mentioned people on the show.
Yes, we should definitely do that because now I'm curious. But yeah, Amelia is here to talk to us about editing and assistant editing. Amelia is our first episode of the year, so we're very excited to have her on. And we'll get
this is 2026.
This is totally not 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. And I totally don't have like a New Year's resolution or anything, right? We can't talk about that yet. But as we love to start all of our shows.
That can be our Spice and Spew. Our Spice and Spew can be our New Year's resolutions.
Sounds good. But as we
I'll think on that.
Yeah. But as we like to start with all of our shows, we must talk about what we're sipping on. So I am going to send it to Amelia, our guest, and we'll have her start.
I'm drinking an iced oat latte from M Cafe. It's unseasonably hot right now, so I went with iced. I unfortunately became sort of a coffee snob during COVID because my neighbor, who's a good friend of mine and a post-producer, he has an espresso machine and he would make me coffee all the time, and he unfortunately elevated my palate, so this is very good.
I never did this, but I did have somebody when I was in college and I was like incessantly knocking on every assistant editor and editor's door to be like, give me advice. Some editor told me, buy an espresso machine and bring it to cutting rooms and be
that's actually smart.
And I always thought that's such a good idea. If you could like learn how to properly brew espresso and then also like steam milk for a latte or do the foam for a cap, like do all that stuff. Like if you have like a barista training basically, and then you bring your own $600, $1,000 espresso machine to a cutting room, I bet you that would get you pretty far. Like I would be willing to bet that would be a pretty sick, like you got to hire this, like you could get places by being the AE with the coffee machine.
I was going to say, you'd also have to make sure it's in your contract that like, wherever the coffee machine goes, I go. You cannot separate us because you cannot have this. It's mine. If you want to bring this coffee machine on your big show, you got to hire me.
Some AE out there should try it. Some aspiring post PA should try it. I know there are post PAs that listen to the show. If any of you got an extra $500 laying around and want to buy an espresso machine, tell me how it went.
There you go.
You can report back. Experiment. Yeah,
report back, please. Michael, what are you sipping on?
Oh yeah, we're still doing that. And we all went to M Street this morning, so I'm drinking an hot almond latte because I was chilly.
Michael was chilly when we walked to M Street, and we all sweat. So go figure out why that is in the episode that we recorded before. So you got your signature almond latte.
I got my signature almond latte.
Large almond latte.
Yum.
Do you guys have preferences? Because I always have sparkling water. I always want sparkling water in a cutting room. Are you guys LaCroix people? I'm very
Absolutely
much a Topo
not.
Chico
I
person.
love Topo Chico.
Yeah, I was gonna
but
say, I think-
I love LaCroix. So.
I like LaCroix. I used to really love LaCroix in college, and then I discovered Topo, and I was like, we're done.
Well, Topo
This
Chico is when
amazing.
I'm like really feeling like a fancy moment.
You want it in a glass bottle.
Yeah, and LaCroix is just like my everyday.
Copy.
I am drinking. Thank you guys so much for asking.
Oh,
I
man, what
am
are you
drinking a sugar and spice iced latte from M Street. We're gonna give a little
Sugar
shout out
and
to M
spice.
Street.
What is sugar and spice? Is it like a chai latte?
It's like a vanilla latte, but it's got a little. I think it's got some more sugar. It's
got a little spice.
to it. You know,
What does spice mean? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Like cinnamon?
I think so. I honestly, I cannot tell.
We have Amelia here,
because
so
it's
maybe that's a
iced.
Dune reference. Can you see
Oh,
the
that's
future?
true.
Are you the Lisan El Gaib now?
I will after this episode when I'm done drinking.
I don't know what the Dune. I was gonna say
That would sounded pretty accurate.
Oh.
Yes. So I think it's sugar and
And
I
spice
think
and
it's
everything nice.
Spice and everything nice, and I think it's probably has some chai.
Little bit
in
of
it or
chemical
whatever.
X.
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Chemical X, yes. I think you made that same joke when I got this before. So
Did I?
I'm glad
You know
that we're
what's-
keeping the jokes consistent, people.
You know what's fucked? I don't know if you do this when you listen to the show, like when we review it, but it is really fucked when I'll hear myself say something and then I think of a joke while I'm listening to you say something or I say something, and then I hear my pre-recorded self say that
the
joke.
same joke.
This is awful. That like I can guess what I'm going to say next just listening to the show. I'm like, I have a set of pre-written responses to certain stimuli.
Yes.
All right,
well,
let's get into it.
let's get into it finally. Amelia, why don't you tell us your
Tell us
story?
your life.
Tell us how you got into film. Tell us where you're from, college if you went to college.
Yeah.
And what made you interested in kind of like pursuing this path?
Well, I grew up in New Hampshire, and I always loved like watching movies, reading books, like anything with storytelling, I guess. And my dad had a VHS camcorder, so once I kind of was allowed to play with that, I would just sort of film all sorts of things, mostly with my siblings and my kids in my neighborhood, and kind of force them to act in different things and play with in-camera editing, make people disappear, like, that kind of stuff. Fun things like that, what I figured out, and I just found to be super fun. But I figured out really quickly that I wasn't really caring what I was filming, and I was really excited to go put music and edit it together. And that was my favorite part of everything.
I was just going to ask, what were you using at this time? Because if it was a camcorder, you had DV tapes, correct?
No, it was VHS tapes.
Oh, VHS tapes. Okay. yeah.
So that I didn't edit.
It was just
because-
all in
Yeah, it was
camera,
all
yeah.
in-camera editing. And then I did get a mini DV camera for a gift when I was in middle school because I was so into this that my parents were like, stop using our camcorder. And they gifted me one year this editing software called Movie Magic's Edit Pro 11.
Wow.
Wow.
What a mouthful.
Yeah.
Movie
I don't know what
Magic edits.
Movie Magic's with an X.
Movie
Magics.
My
Yeah,
apologies.
yeah.
Movie Magic's
Edit Pro 11. Yeah.
What system was this? Is it Windows Max?
Yeah, it was
Liv-
on a Windows
Windows,
PC.
okay.
I had a like shared family computer kind of thing, and I think it took up the entire memory of the computer because I remember our family computer being super slow after
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And I really only knew how to make crossfades once I got into that, add music, and I loved to put credits. That was like my favorite thing, like directed by Amelia would be
yeah.
like gotta throw that on there.
Of course. And it's written by Amelia, acted by
Yeah.
Amelia, produced by Amelia.
Edited by.
To be clear, never acted by Amelia.
Never acted.
Always have to put my sister through that. Shout out to her. I didn't really know that editing was a job because, like, growing up in New Hampshire, my dad's an engineer, my mom's a nurse. It's like very not. They were always really supportive of me doing that kind of stuff, but they didn't know anything about it. So I was watching a bonus feature for one of the Harry Potter films. It's called The Magic of Editing, and that was when I realized like what editing was. It was you could edit a scene in the movie with your DVD remote. So it showed you some dailies.
That's sick as fuck. I didn't know this.
Yeah, you
Wait,
can
which
still-
movie was this?
Order of the Phoenix.
And it's got like clips, and you get to choose
Yes,
which.
so it
clip
shows
goes
you
in.
dailies, and it has like, but it's like very limited. So it's like 3 or 4 clips, I would say.
Wow.
And
do they have burn-ins and everything? Like, is it an
no,
actual daily?
not like that. Not that level. It showed a mixing board for some reason.
Okay.
And then you could choose from 3 things, and you chose the order of the shots. And then you got to choose from 3 sound effects and 3 different pieces of music. And you could choose one of them, and then it would put the scene together, play it, and then Mark Day would come on and explain like the theory of editing, why it was cut in the way that it was.
How does that even work? I don't even know how that works.
I know.
Like,
Yeah, like the mixing board would like load and then it would play the scene for you. I will say it's not, when you go back and do it, it's super slow. And it like kind of doesn't work sometimes. If you choose the order, it'll like flip the clips sometimes. So it's not perfect. But it was enough
As a
for me
kid,
to be
you're like-
completely
as a kid, you're
mind-blown.
like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And by kid, I mean, I
was.
was 15. Yeah.
That's still a kid.
Still,
You're still a kid
I
at
think
15.
so, yeah.
But I watched it and I was like completely mind blown because it was like something wired in my brain where I was like, I knew that I wanted to be this, but I didn't know it existed. So I was like, he's a guy, he's doing that job, and I could be that guy doing that
That's
job.
sick.
You think, I don't know, especially like at that time, I thought like, if you want to work in film, you're either Steven Spielberg or you're Leonardo DiCaprio,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Like there's not, I didn't think or understand that there were other roles.
Yeah.
I feel like it also seems like such a far-fetched dream too.
Yes.
When you're a kid, it's the same as being like a kid, and be like, I want to be president.
I want to be an
wanna
astronaut.
Yeah, I want to
no,
be an
it
astronaut.
really. And my parents kind of, I think, like again, they were always really supportive, but I think that they kind of were like, we have no idea where.
I mean, I also think
that.
if you're in New Hampshire, you're not really near any kind of
No.
media center at all.
No.
So the further away you are from any kind of media center, the less you could even comprehend that there's like a whole cottage industry designed to make this stuff.
Exactly. And so at the time when I would like show family members little videos I'd make, they'd be like, "Oh, sweet."
Yeah.
Cute.
Yeah,
Yes.
Cute.
it's
What a
not
nice hobby you
Yeah,
have.
exactly. It'd be a nice little hobby, but if I'm
Yeah.
gonna make it a career, that's not. That's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, sweetheart.
So you got kind of enamored by
You
editing
have your Ollivanders
through-
moment.
Yes.
The hair, the light is shining
The
down.
light
Your hair is
shining.
flying up.
Well, that was kind of, I look back on that to be like, that's when I was like, I'm gonna be an editor. Like that's
Right.
kind of I kind of decided that, and when I started watching movies, I would look at that credits, and I would saw like that's when I first saw Ace and was like, what is that? And
You discovered Ace at 15?
well, I saw that on people's
it was on
credits,
people's
and then I
names.
would figure.
Oh,
tried
I
to figure
never
that
put
out.
2 and 2 together.
Neither
until-
did I.
I never knew what that was until
Well, I
college.
didn't know it was like really. I didn't find out about like the ACE internship, for example. I didn't find out about that until I was in college.
Okay.
But
You knew there was
I
this
was
honor
like,
society.
yes, and I was like, I want to be an ACE member. Actually, when I was a teenager, I was like, I want to be an ACE member. That's a goal of mine in life.
So you're 15 at the time. So you just mentioned college. So where'd you go to college? Were you specifically looking for film schools then because you were like, this is now what I want to do?
Yes, I really wanted to go to film school, and I applied to some film schools in California, and I was rejected. And I was
Wow.
absolutely devastated because I kind of had it in my head that I would come here.
So you already knew that you wanted to move here. You
Yeah.
didn't- Did you ever think of New York or you were like,
Yes, I
okay.
also thought of New York because it's really pretty relatively close to New Hampshire. But I always had, I never really had an affinity for New York, so I kind of like always had it in my head for California. And also, I don't know, when you're just watching movies, I'd never been here, but it's like you see Hollywood and you see sound stages. So I was rejected from film school. I got into a liberal arts college that I had a good scholarship for as well, called Roger Williams University in Rhode Island. So I kind of started there as a visual arts major because it was just sort of like the closest kind of thing I could get. But as I was there 2 years into my program, I kind of realized it was so focused on like sculpture, drawing. Like I had one media kind of class. It was not film focused at all. And the school wasn't really. So I decided to do an independent study. So I worked with my, advisor, and I sort of designed my own major with the visual arts courses I had already started taking. I started building my own thing. So they had a film theory minor. So I took all the film classes I could take, all the visual arts things that I could do. I did a study abroad program in London where I did film production there and British cinema studies. I did a bunch of PR and journalism classes. So combined, we made up the title Visual Communications and Film. So that is the
So
degree.
you could have your own degree that's had the word film.
That's
in it.
really cool.
Exactly.
That's cool.
So that
That
I
is
could,
really
and
cool.
yeah, and like during that time, me and my friend started a film production club at the school. I was the vice president of that. And then throughout those years in college, I had 10 different internships in film and TV around the state. So I was trying to combine like all of those things to basically just make a package of like, I didn't get into film school, but I have all the things.
That's really cool.
How'd you get out here?
When I was a sophomore, I discovered the ACE internship online because
Just Googling around.
every night, how to become film editor was my Google search.
Yeah.
And I did come across the ACE internship, and I saw one of the requirements was you, at the time, I don't know if it still is, but you had to have a degree to apply. So I was like, okay, this is my goal. Like, if I have to spend 2 more years here, like, this is the thing that I think will...
That's a good anchor point. That's a good, like, of all the things to do, like, I want to do this thing. It's a good I don't know, guiding star.
Yeah, and on the website, it was like, and you have to live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, great. So here are my, like, yeah. So
Because Ace Intern New York didn't exist at that point. I think that's new.
Yeah,
It's like,
it didn't.
So it almost like solidified all of your decisions.
That makes
Like,
a lot of
yes.
sense.
Yeah, and so I basically graduated, and I packed up all my stuff in my car. I drove here from New Hampshire, and the ACE internship though wasn't going to be. At the time, it was in January, so it wasn't going to be for another like 8 months or so, and I wasn't even sure if I was a finalist or anything like that. So for a couple months, I just was looking for a job. I got like this Craigslist gig where I was kind of house sitting for somebody. So I got a really, really cheap place to live, but I had to like drive his car around and get his mail and
Like be his personal assistant, kind of.
no, he wasn't living there. It was like
without him being there.
yeah, exactly. So it was this kind of crazy deal. So anyway, I got a job at BuzzFeed Video.
That's sick.
Amazing.
Yeah. So,
Oh my God, wait, I'm so excited now.
so I edited their YouTube videos for like 7 months while I waited for the internship.
Wow, this is
Wow.
prime BuzzFeed years too. This
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
2015. This is Let's Try International Snacks, and that
Yes,
gets
and-
30 million views.
And I won't tell you which, but I'm in a lot of those videos.
You're
Oh my
shitting
God.
me! Oh my God,
gonna
that's so
Google.
fucking sick.
They had
gonna
me
Google.
try a lot of weird foods and react on
That's-
camera.
Wow, that's gotta be from pan into the fire, whatever that phrase is. My impression is like for your first editing job ever to go to BuzzFeed must be cool.
Yeah. I was like a video syndication editor. So they would edit their own video. The producers would edit their own video, and then I would re-edit all the videos for syndication. So
Really?
basically,
Wow.
at the time, it would be like, okay, we're going to syndicate to Facebook, Yahoo, I don't know, and then 7 other websites. But they all had different censorship rules. So I had to edit out jokes or edit in different things. And so because I encompassed with one other person who was a friend of mine who edited for syndication as well, we encompassed all the videos. We had to edit 45 videos a week, re-edit
Holy
them.
shit.
You just had to know that Facebook doesn't allow you to say this.
Yeah.
This.
Or we had to
swear,
blur
and YouTube
butts
says
and-
this. Oh, blur butts or blur.
Yeah,
Oh,
because they don't
wow.
allow that, but like you can on YouTube and yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So
Logos
the producers,
and stuff too?
Yeah.
Like
So and then
t-shirt logos or something?
yes,
as well? Yeah,
logos, or then like someone shows their butt and we put like the BuzzFeed logo over it and stuff like that. Or like you'd have to edit around a joke.
Wow.
And,
I see that BuzzFeed building on Hollywood. Is that where you were, or were you in a different place?
It was in Hollywood, but it was right behind the ArcLight. There's that
Yeah.
huge tower building now. That used to be a flat like complex.
Really?
And it was awesome because it was like all this
Wow.
grassy stuff and it was really fun. I mean, honestly, it was kind of like another college. I always joked like I didn't see an adult for like 9 months because I truly didn't. I was 22 and I was like, I feel like I've like regressed less than college. But truthfully, I kept being like, okay, when am I going to hear back from the ACE internship?
Right,
because like
right.
as grateful
so
I was
funny.
to have a job
course,
and I
of
got paid
course.
well and I had I could afford my own apartment and I could move out of that guy's weird place where I was driving his car around. I like was waiting for the ACE internship because I was like, I want to respectfully work on
big features.
film
Yes,
and
of
TV.
course,
I
of
didn't
course.
want
Big
to
movies and
be
television
blurring
shows,
butts and doing like
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're at BuzzFeed, and I assume you applied to the ACE internship while you're working at BuzzFeed.
Yeah, and I got notified that I was a finalist.
Wow.
And
Okay.
they were basically like, if you're going to interview on a Sunday, and if you get it, it's going to start a week later.
Was it still that time you found out that day of? Because I think nowadays, like, you still do that interview and they find out, the interns find out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Everybody interviews in one day. You find out at the end of the day. But they notified us in like October, and the interview was in the first week of January. So
Okay,
I had time before the interview. So I told BuzzFeed, like, basically, I'm going to have this interview, and if I get it, I'm going to be quitting 1 week later. So I trained somebody in advance to potentially take my job. And basically, I was like, if I don't get it, though, I'm keeping this job. Because I was like, I can't afford to not have this job.
Only at BuzzFeed. Only at BuzzFeed, people.
They allowed me to do it,
That's
which is
so
very
sick
funny.
as hell.
So like brave of you too.
I
like
know.
to be like, hey, I might leave, but I might not. But like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go if
It was a
if this
magical
comes up.
period of
Yeah.
time between 2012 and 2015 where everything in life was beautiful and there was optimism on the horizon.
I do feel like I was really good at my job too there. So I
They didn't
think
wanna
that
lose
he
you.
was just sort of
Yeah.
like, my boss was like, oh, okay, like, yeah, sure, we'll do this. And yeah, and then I was selected for the internship on that Sunday. And then I was just like,
Wow.
all right, well, Friday's my last day. And then that guy who I trained was like, yes.
Of course.
And you're like, and that guy won the Oscar last
Yeah.
year.
I wonder what he's up to.
So now you've got the internship. You go through it. How long is the internship? Actually,
Well,
don't
at
know.
that time, it was like 5 weeks.
I think it's still about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a week in film, a week in scripted television, a week in unscripted television, and then a week in facilities. Like VFX vendors, Foley, mixed stage.
Do you remember what shows you were on?
Yeah, I did a movie called The Finest Hours, and then I did The 100 season 2, and then I did Beyond Scared Straight. So, and yeah, the 100, the editor Hunter Vi, who was an ACE intern before me, he was the first editor who hired me because we met there.
On the ACE internship.
I was gonna ask then how you went from ACE internship to job and working.
Yeah, well, I had to get my days, which I didn't even know was a thing to join the union.
You didn't know that until the ACE internship?
No, I didn't even know how to use Avid.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything.
Fair.
Because I didn't go to film school. The ACE internship was my film school. I didn't know what dailies meant. I didn't
Wow.
know, like, I really didn't know really anything.
I guess that's like someone has to teach you that. Like that's not
Yeah.
common knowledge. Like,
No.
So I'm sure that at this internship you were able to then kind of like oversee everybody using Avid and then like learn at
Yes.
that. Yeah.
And I did, actually, one thing I forgot to mention is that one thing I applied for online during my time at BuzzFeed was at the Moviola Education Center. They were looking for interns. And I got a job working as an intern there answering phones. And in exchange, they would give you free courses in Avid.
Oh, that's cool.
So I did that on the weekends and nights.
Was that here in LA?
Yeah, but it was awesome, and I learned a lot there. And everyone was so lovely. I saw Moviola for the first time there because it was just in the lobby. And I also met, like, through a friend of a friend, somebody connected me to somebody at Universal who connected me to an online editor. And I didn't know what that meant. So during this time, and when I was working at BuzzFeed, I would wrap at BuzzFeed at 5. I would go to this online editor at Universal Studios, and I would watch him online for hours.
Wow, you would go to the lot? Wow, that's
Wow.
so cool.
They gave me, I must have signed an NDA. I mean, they let me
Wow,
go
just
in. I
walk
would
on the
sit
lot
with him.
and sit in a color suite or whatever?
Yeah, and
Wow.
he'd show me how they onlined and what he would get from the editors and how he would split screen it and how he would make sure that the opticals were applied
Wow.
and things like that. And so I was kind of always trying to do like 3 things at once, basically. But anyway, yeah, so that's how I kind of learned Avid. I was still really didn't understand it. And then I
Right.
saw on the internship, I remember one of the assistant editors on the film, he was like, you should click around, like, and he saw me clicking. He's like, you're clicking like you're in Premiere. You have to, like, this is, and I remember him showing me, like, you're not going to grab, like, if you click like this, I don't know.
For anybody listening, the Moviola Training Center is still around.
Is it? Wow, I've never
They
heard
do
anybody.
have courses, but I don't know if there was probably as many as there. Like I just looked it up, and it's like one course for editing. Stickman straightens out codex. which I think is just a video on codecs for
That's
about
so
4
cool.
minutes.
They still
So
do it.
they're still kind of around, but I'm sure it's not as big as when
Oh, they're owned by
Amelia
Film
did
Tools
it.
now.
So you have to get your days.
Yeah, after the internship, I just met so many people. I sent my resume to so many people. So I still don't know who it's through, but I got an interview from to be an assistant editor in behind the scenes bonus features.
Okay.
Oh, EPK.
So, yeah.
Did any of the stuff from BuzzFeed count or not really?
No. You know, it did help me get the job at EPK, though. It was really
I'm
beneficial to that. But that's where I got all my days with this amazing woman named Amelia who ran her own production company. So it was really small. She only was going to hire me for 2 months, which wouldn't have been all my days. And I was like, I need to keep working here and get my days. And when I was running out of stuff to do, because like the projects I was working on started wrapping up, she had a closet of hard drives, and I started just like pulling them out and reorganizing them. And I remember she walked into my little bay one time and she saw all these hard drives plugged in and everything was like loading and transferring. And she was like, what are you doing? I was like, all your hard drives needed organizing. So, and she was like, oh, no way. And so she kept coming back, like thinking I was doing a lot of stuff because I wanted to make sure I maintained a job. So a couple weeks went by and then they got a new project. So she kept me on, like it kept me on.
You
and
strung along for those 100 days.
Yes,
Wow.
and I ended up staying on. I could have stayed on longer. I actually ended up leaving like on day 103 when I got.
You're like, I got him now.
Well,
Let's
yeah,
go.
I would have stayed longer, but I got an offer as an assistant editor on a TV show. So I was like, and then she was super happy for me and everything like that.
What was the TV show?
It was called Damien. It was on
Okay.
A&E. Have you guys seen The Omen? The
I've
70s
heard of
film?
it.
I've heard of
Yeah.
The Omen. I haven't watched it.
Well, it was a spin-off of that.
Horror, I assume.
Yeah,
Some
the
type
little-
of, like,
the little
possessed
boy.
by the devil or something.
Yeah, but he's 30 now, and what's his life like?
What's his
Whoa.
life like as the... Oh, I see. After discovering his origins, Damien Thorne must cope with his life as the Antichrist.
Yeah.
As the Antichrist.
Wow. Just a regular day as the Antichrist.
It's really a cool story, actually. So Hunter Vi was on the 100, and it was a really hard week that I shadowed their team. And Hunter was really sweet, but I mostly was shadowing his assistant editor, Brock Hammett, and Aaron Druez. They were really busy, and so I didn't really get to shadow Hunter very much, and I didn't really get to know him very much. Then there was a day where their Nexus went down. Everybody had to stop working, and they had to wait for the Avid tech to come, and it was going to be like 2 hours in traffic. I remember that the assistant editors were like, you can just go home, like... we're going to be waiting, but we have to get these outputs out, so we have to stay here. And I was like, no, I'll stay. And I remember we all sat in this one room and just hung out because there was nothing else anybody could do. And I ended up chatting with Hunter for a while. And he used to edit these awesome Lifetime horror movies, like The Craigslist Killer. And I had loved that one, so I asked him a million questions about it. He also edited The Mist, and
cool,
that
yeah.
movie is so disturbing and good.
Yeah.
And so I asked him a million questions about all these horror things he had done. So we really kind of bonded about this, and this was kind of my only time to get to know him. Months later, after the internship, he emailed me and was like, I need an assistant editor for this horror TV show, and I remember that you liked horror. And it was like from that conversation.
Oh, you talking about it.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have really gotten to know each other very much.
Wow.
That's a really good piece of advice for people, is that you can be in the cutting room and you can be showing, people how good you are, but the networking also comes from those moments where you're not doing anything and you're
Exactly.
sitting, or lunches. Sit with like everybody at lunch, get to know them on a personal level. And if you're given the option to leave early, like Amelia was, and you don't want to, hang around with everybody, talk to them, and just get to know them.
I feel like I remember they were like, you could go home, and I was on the west side and I lived in North Hollywood, and I was like, what am I going to do? Sit in traffic, and I only have a week to get to know these people.
Yeah.
Like,
Right, yeah.
I was like, no, it didn't even cross my mind to
Yeah.
go home. I was like, what
Yeah.
do you mean? I'm like
Yeah.
in it with the team. I'm
Yeah.
not just going to go home.
So you do that television show.
Yeah.
I'm curious just because I see in here that you then went and did a feature, or you did a TV movie, or no, you did a feature. You did Diary of a Wimpy Kid after.
Yeah. So I did the horror TV show, and then the next thing I did was a pilot called Good Behavior.
I see that. Okay.
I worked with Doc Krotzer, who was my editor for years.
I love Doc. I didn't know
too.
you know Doc.
So Doc was my editor. Like, that's my person that I
Oh
learned
my
everything from.
God.
I always say, like, he's my work soulmate. He's always my forever mentor. mentor, like
He's such a lovely guy.
I just actually got to present at the Eddies. I presented his award to him when he won.
Oh my God.
Oh, yes.
For Roadhouse at the Eddies. And it was like a really special moment. But yeah, he hired me on a pilot by recommendation of Hunter for Good Behavior. He was editing that. And then he hired me on season 1 of Good Behavior when it got picked up. So that was our first full season we did together a couple months later. And we just like totally clicked. We got along so well. I can say a million other things about Doc because I could fast forward to when we did season 2 after Diary of a Wimpy Kid. He directed, and then that's when I first edited. And Doc has always been like my biggest advocate. So I love him so much.
I'm just curious about Diary of a Wimpy Kid because that looks like that's like your first full feature you did.
Yes.
It seems like you've really gravitated towards television, especially in your editing career. I'm just curious what drew you towards television versus what drew you, versus features, right?
What drew me towards television at the beginning is that's the first person who offered me a job.
Yeah.
And then I always was like, I want to do a film. So after season 1 of Good Behavior, when Troy Takaki, who edited that film, told me he needed a second, I was like, absolutely, because I really want to get the feature workflow experience. And so I worked at Fox for that. I learned a ton because the workflow of a feature is something that I didn't understand or know. Like I knew all the technical skills at that point because I had done now Damien, the pilot, and the first season of Good Behavior. So now I was actually a good assistant editor. But I realized when I was doing that, I kind of was like really bored.
It's slower.
It was really slow. I was used to also with Doc, I was used to knowing everything that was going on at all times and managing all of it. I really like a challenge. And I liked being a team with Doc and being like, okay, I'm managing this person coming into the cutting room. I'm managing the VFX doing this. And my first on Diary of a Wimpy Kid was amazing, but he handled all of that.
Right.
And he delegated to me, which was awesome. And I had a great time. Again, I learned so much, but I was always like, people would come in for a meeting and I was like, wait, what?
Who are you? Why are you
Yeah,
here?
I was like, I was like, I can't believe I don't know about this. And it would be like, oh, it's for VFX and that's not really my domain. And I was like, I don't think I like this. I also knew Doc was going to be directing on season 2, and I really wanted to try to edit on season 2. So that was kind of like influenced my decision to be like, I'm going to go back and not do another feature right now.
I'm curious in a rhetorical sense, if you were first on a feature, if your experience would have been, any
more.
I'm sure
whatever.
it would have. I wasn't used to not being in the loop on everything.
Yes.
Well, obviously, TV's so fast paced, and so the slowness of the feature was really getting to me. That was when I first edited my first short film. I took it on because I was like, I have nothing to do half the day.
It's also so funny to be like, there's nothing to do on a feature because for like a regular person, it would be the hardest job. It would be like, I'm working 24/7. But for an editor, you're right. It's like in comparison, it's like, it's a nice day. Like, yeah, you're just hanging out. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah.
No, and obviously I had challenges, but I just found it to be slow.
Yeah, it's absolutely definitely
And I
slower.
value that experience so much because later when like I went to Westworld, that was such a crossover of TV and feature
I was going to say,
workflow.
Westworld prestige television, it's got to be so similar.
I felt like I was like, whoa. When I got there, I was like, this is such a crossover of those two workflows that without Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I would not have been as well prepared if I had just come from Good Behavior, because Good Behavior was a cable show. It was pretty standard television workflow, and combining Diary of a Wimpy Kid feature workflow with that cable workflow was exactly what Westworld needed. So I felt like I was extremely prepared for that job when I came to that, because like I feel like everyone should experience both of those workflows at some point as an assistant editor, because it just rounds out your view of how those different formats work.
Now that you bring it up, I do want to dive a little bit into that. So you worked on Westworld, which is kind of like this blend of TV and movie, right? You're working with Nolan, but also obviously it's like a 9-episode series.
Right.
How do those workflows integrate?
One of the biggest things I can think about is that like in a standard cable show, it'd be very black and white, as like you lock the picture, you turn everything over once. Now you're doing the visual effects, which are pretty minimal, especially for a show like Good Behavior. And then you're doing one mix, you're doing one color pass, and then everything's done.
Okay.
And Westworld, I hadn't experienced increasing the versions on reels, updating to the mix stage.
So they did that on Westworld in that type of workflow.
Yeah,
so.
and I wouldn't have known what that was at all if I hadn't done Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And
Right.
that's just the example that pops in my head, where it's like Well, because we had a high level of visual effects, and also because it wasn't as black and white as we're going to lock the picture once and we're going to do one turnover and be
It's
done.
HBO, which requires rounds of revision.
Yeah, and also because of the elevated level of storytelling, they left the room for that kind of creative flow if you needed to, especially when visual effects were coming in like you would on a feature, whereas they don't do that in a cable television environment. It's locked no matter what.
You know what I find interesting, and Leanne and I have talked about this before. We are basically just the amalgamations of the different people that we work with and the things that we like about how the way they do stuff and the things that we don't like about the way that they do stuff. I'm curious, you have these editors you work with. Now that you're an editor, do you find yourself being like, I'm cutting this episode, or I'm telling my assistant to organize this episode in the same way that Doc asked me to do it, or the way that Andy asked? Like, what is there an editor you point to that is being like, I am in many ways a parody of that person?
Yeah, mostly Doc.
Mostly Doc.
Yeah, and McKenna Cook, who's my assistant editor, she knows this too. I'll always be like, well, Doc did that. And then she like says too, she's like, well, I only like to organize like this. And it's like, she's now like a second generation clone of Doc.
Yeah.
But
Doc is probably a clone of...
exactly.
If we had, one of these days we'll have Doc on the show and we'll ask him who he's a clone of.
Yes.
I mean, we're all
and he'll have his, because, and you take and leave what works for you.
Yeah.
Like, I would prepare his dailies for so long and be like, I don't necessarily understand why he's doing everything until he asks me to cut a scene. And then I'm like, oh, right.
Can I ask how he organizes his dailies?
Well,
Or how do
so
you
one of the
organize
main
daily?
things that I always like religiously take from Doc is that he subclips every reset in the bin. So I edit from the bin for my first pass, where I'm starting with the indicator at like, whatever the
Action.
start time. Yeah.
Sure.
And then I'm playing like whatever portion of every take of the scene to that, like, hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? In every take. And then I'm auditioning it that way, almost like in a script sync sort of.
So you're doing like line selects.
Yes, but then I just pick one though.
Yes.
I'm not like choosing multiple. And then I'm usually know which angle I want to go with, but I don't like to edit off the script for the first pass because I like to see everything in between. But it takes like a little longer for people to sub out every reset, but also I'm a really visual editor, and I think that that's also what Doc's style helps me with, because I can look at the bin and then I can just automatically see by looking at the thumbnails like, oh, they did 5 takes of this, even though there was one take in quotes.
Yes.
But I don't like to see multiple markers within the take and be like, oh, there's all these resets. I like to see it laid out in the thumbnail. And so that's one of the big things I take from Doc.
It was so wild for me to start assisting because the first editor I ever assisted for only used list view.
Oh, yeah, no, I can't do that.
No, absolutely
To
not.
this day, the only editor I've ever known that does. But I thought that's how everybody did it. So then when I started assisting for other editors, and they were like in thumbnail view, I want A cam, B cam, and then the multicam underneath, and like I want.
Oh,
you to
I
start-
don't do that.
You don't do that?
Too much clutter. I like to just see the group.
Oh, you just want the group. You don't want A cam.
I like
and
the
B
A cam and
I've
B
seen that
cam
before too,
I like
yeah.
A cam and B cam in a trash pile in the corner.
Oh, just hidden away.
Or, like,
Yeah.
all the way at the
Interesting.
bottom.
No, like I don't like to see it.
Oh, at
I do
all.
call it the trash pile.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's in the bin if I
Interesting.
need to
But
like.
you just want the multicam.
I just want the multicam because then I can literally see it says group on it,
Yeah.
and I have
Yeah.
him flip A B for the visual. Hunter, I remember on Damien, he told me like just make sure you never move. Like once you set up a bin, don't ever move the clips from where they are, because I remember I'm a visual person and I remember them based on, I love
Yeah.
the top right take. And I realized that's how my
interesting.
brain works too.
Really?
So I'll never
Oh,
be
okay,
like,
yeah.
oh, right, the B setup or whatever.
saying,
Take
oh,
2. I'll be
yeah.
like, oh, bottom left corner. I
That's
remember
the one I
liking.
like.
Yeah, it's all based on visuals.
so
Because I also,
Interesting. That's interesting.
my assistant editor makes fun of me because I'll be like, if there are more clips than the size of the bin, I have
Oh,
to have
yeah.
a part 2 bin because I don't like to scroll. And she'll be like, oh, you can't scroll. But it's not just that. It's like I'm a visual. I'm like, I need it to be in one box
Yeah.
so that everything's always in the same corner.
That makes total
Right,
sense.
And then I
Yeah.
have a
Total
part
sense.
2, so I'm just going to tabs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it was part 2, top right.
Interesting.
so
That's so
interesting.
So I'll have like
That's
7
interesting.
parts of one bin. I don't
That's so
mind that.
interesting.
I'd rather have that than scrolling around.
So how did you make the jump from assisting to editing?
Well, that was in big part due to Doc. So on season 2 of Good Behavior, which was right before I assisted on Westworld, season 2, Doc was directing an episode. And so that left one episode open. It wasn't an episode that our team was assigned to, actually. It was just a different one where they were like, we have to find one editor because just the way the schedule was set up.
Ah.
And I was like thinking in my head, because the pilot in season 1, I had gotten to know the showrunner. I was cutting all the previously ons and the gag reel, and the showrunner, Chad Hodge, and I had gotten our good individual relationship, and Doc was really kind. He would have me in the room for every session, for all the director sessions, take notes. I got to know our producing director, and I was like really nervous, but I was sort of like, I want to pitch myself to edit this episode. And so I pitched myself to Doc, and he was like, oh, well, I'm going to be gone for a couple weeks, like directing during that time. And if you are going to edit, I want to be here to support you. And I like took out the calendar. I was like, well, actually, if you look at the calendar, you're only going to be gone for one of the weeks of my, like, you know, and he was like, oh, okay. You know what? I'm going to pitch us to co-edit it to Chad, because I think this will help to sell it.
Smooth it over.
And I was like, okay. And he like basically went and talked to him right then, like went over to his office. So like, I don't know, it was like a day or two later that Chad was like, yeah, that sounds great.
Wow.
If you want to co-edit the episode with Amelia, like I'm down. So then Doc came to me and he was like, I'm not editing the episode. You're going to edit the episode. So I got my own assistant editor for like a month during the dailies of it. And Doc went off to North Carolina to direct. And I was so scared. And I asked all the other editors for feedback all the time. And I would stay up late and I would, you know, do all the things, because I was also assisting on the other episodes at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So basically, once it got to the point of the showrunner cut and the showrunner liked it, Doc called the showrunner and said, just so you know, I didn't do that. Amelia did. And I think she should get sole credit.
Wow.
And the showrunner was like, oh my God, yeah, of course. And so it was incredible. Like he waited until he liked it, because he was like, if he doesn't,
Right.
I'll be the one that's
Kind of takes
Comes
like,
in and fixes
He
it.
didn't tell me any of this, by the way. He just like, this was his secret plan.
Wow.
Man, I know.
That's so fucking
awesome.
sick.
So I got my first episode because of that.
That's one of the things we talk about on the show, is like the importance, for one, having advocates, but then for two, when you're in a position of authority, to advocate for others, because it's so easy to just, like, it would have been really easy for Doc to just be like, no, you're not experienced enough. I'm not going to give you this chance.
Yeah.
Or even like slap his name as a co-editor on something he didn't actually edit,
Yeah.
right? For Doc to be that cool, to be like, I don't need this credit. Like, I've got an editing career where I don't need this credit. This other person needs this credit, especially a sole credit, way more than I do.
No, it was incredible. And like the showrunner called me and was just like, Doc told me this, and I'm so proud of
Wow.
you, and you did an amazing job. And he was like, when we get season 3, I want you to be an editor, or not an assistant editor anymore. And then the show got canceled. So
Because now you have this whole career as a television editor that, like, you can really point to this one moment as being like a foundational building block where you
Absolutely.
can use that episode to then go. I assume you did another television show after that, and you were able to say, hey, look, I edited this episode of television. Like,
yeah, well, because I had done a bunch of short films too, like throughout. And I remember during season 2 of Good Behavior, I invited like everybody, including the showrunner, to the premiere of a short film I had edited. And he was like, wow, I didn't realize like you were editing so much. Like, I feel like he always saw that I was trying to edit. And so all these things compounded on each other. But when Good Behavior got canceled, and I was sort of like, okay, well, I'm not realistically not going to just be editing suddenly.
Yeah.
And that's when I took a job as assistant editor on Westworld. At that point, I was
Okay.
like,
it was after that.
yeah, and I was like, I kind of weirdly manifested like, I want to have the most difficult assistant editor job, and I want to learn as much as possible. If I'm not going to be editing Good Behavior, this is what I want to do. And so and then I got that job.
If you were to ask me what is probably the hardest thing to assistant edit on, Westworld would probably be up there, because it's
Yeah.
basically feature television.
Right.
Did they shoot that on film at all?
Yeah,
They
the
did
whole,
shoot
the whole
Westworld.
series was on
Okay.
film. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to know real quick, now that you've made this jump and you are an established television editor, is there anything about assisting that you miss, or you're just very glad that
no.
part of your life is over?
I don't miss anything.
Yeah.
I think I was a good assistant editor, but
Right,
as soon
right.
as I loved it, and then I felt like I always like a challenge. So
Right.
I especially loved assistant editing when I was being challenged.
Okay.
But then when I would feel comfortable and I was like killing it,
Yeah.
I was like, I want more. I always
Yeah.
wanted more. And I think like, well, it was when I was on Westworld season 2 was like, Doc really got me my first season of a show right after Westworld season 2, because that's when I like actually got the real
yeah.
jump, because he got offered to edit season 1 of Pen 15.
Okay, yeah.
And he it was one of those shows that was in that contract time of like new media. So the contracts were lower. The rate was not up to Doc's, you
fair.
know. And so he was like, I know someone who edits like me and who would take any rate. So he put me up in his place. And I interviewed with them. And between having one episode of Good Behavior and then all my short films, which included comedy stuff, comedy horror, and all different genres. Then they hired me on the first season because of that. So,
do you miss cable TV or anything like that? Like, I guess I'm wondering, compared to something like Westworld and then compared to something like Good Behavior, do you have a preference, or is it all just kind of the same to you?
No, I mean, I think I prefer the best storytelling, and I think that sometimes cable can have limitations on that just based on, you know, timings and act breaks and things like that. Not to say that those can't be amazing, but anything that's going to allow for the best storytelling is like the thing that I like the most. I've mostly worked in streaming and like non-commercial and non-act breaks. At the time of working on Good Behavior, I was in love with that show, and it still has an amazing special place in my heart. But I, at this point, would be like, I would rather work on something that could be uninterrupted and not have those commercial breaks or like as much of a time limitation.
So you edit on Good Behavior, and then you assist on Westworld, and then you come back and you edit on Pen 15. I'm curious, when did you make the distinction where you were like, in your brain, you're like, I no longer want to take assistant editing jobs if they're offered to me, because like I want this editing career?
Well, I think I was lucky because about halfway through Pen 15, I wasn't thinking too far in the future. I was just like so grateful to be editing that season. And then my post-producer from Westworld put me up for a job editing a BET series called Boomerang. And so I did get that job that came right after Pen 15.
And this was as an editor?
As an editor.
As an editor, yeah.
So I got that right after. It was another half-hour comedy. It was that point, so I done Boomerang, and then I was like, okay, but I know, like, Season 3 of Westworld was going to be gearing up soon, and I loved working on that show. And so that was the point where I had to make a decision because I loved them, they loved me. There wasn't a place to be an editor on Season 3. And they offered me to come back and be Andy's assistant editor again on Season 3. But at the same time, again, Doc, my favorite person in the world, had gotten me an interview to edit this TV series called Impulse, which was a sci-fi coming-of-age TV series for NBC and YouTube Red. And they offered me an editing job at the same time. And I kind of called, you know, the people at Westworld to say this. And Steven Semmel, who's like one of the producers and editors on the show, who's an amazing person that I really look up to, he gave me some advice where he was like, look, we all love you, and if you want to come back and do this, we'll have you, but if you have an editing offer, go do that. We're not going to forget about you. And
that's sweet.
That proved to be true, obviously, because I did come back as an editor on Season 4. But that was kind of where I made the decision where I was like, okay, I'm not going to go back to this really amazing show that I love, and I'm going to go continue trying to be an editor and like turn down this assistant editor job that would have been like almost 2 years long too, to do this like 6-month long editor job.
I mean, this is a lot further along in your career, but sometimes you have to make that decision to be like, I'm going to do the less prestigious thing for the better opportunity than the more prestigious thing for the opportunity that I've already have done or I don't want, right? So sometimes you have to make that calculus, especially sometimes money too. Like I'm going to be paid, like it's very possible to get paid less as an editor on a kind of show than it is you could get paid an assistant editor on a more prestige type of project.
Well, yeah, I took a pay cut going from assistant editor on Westworld to an editor on Pen 15.
When did you decide you needed an agent? And then how did you go about that process of finding somebody who was willing to represent you, especially if you're a young, how did that happen for you?
It was actually in the middle of Impulse that I started getting contacted by a few people. And it was because Pen 15 came out, and it was kind of like a weird culty hit, and people really liked it. So I started getting kind of cold contacted by agents, and I was like, I don't know. So I asked a couple of different people their advice, and they're like, if you're going to meet with agents, just meet with, I kind of got connected to a bunch of different agents. And that's when I just decided to start having meetings, because it was like, it can't hurt. And my agents, I'm with WPA and I've been with them since then. I basically really wanted to edit Little Fires Everywhere because it was in the trades, and Doc also knew some of the producers. So between loving the book, knowing that Doc had a connection, and then liking the agents at WPA, I was like, okay, I really want to get this job. It was basically like not as black and white as like, here's your first test.
But
Get me this job.
Help me get the interview for the show.
Yeah. And so they got me the interview and I
Wow.
got the job. So
That's a good agent.
Yeah. So I've been with them ever since.
You're like, oh, yeah, I guess I'll
Wow.
stick with you now.
Yeah, it was kind of like, what's the harm if they don't get me the job?
Yeah.
It's not like I have money to give them.
Yeah.
So I don't lose anything by trying. I did interview with Doc's agent as well.
Yeah, okay.
I think Doc has really high level agents, and so at the time,
Yeah.
I think that I wanted to go with somebody
The smaller agency.
Yeah, and WPA has been really great, and they had less clients, and they only represent below the line. So it was.
okay.
I also just like had a really good vibe when I met them, and we just got along in a way that I didn't feel with other people when I met with them, and I have been with them since then.
Have they gotten you a lot of like jobs that you're on?
It's a combination.
Combination,
Like I think that they've gotten me connections and they've gotten me interviews. They've certainly negotiated me money. Sometimes it's like maybe I'll have the seed of something and they'll make the connection. I think that working with an agent is just as much my responsibility as it is theirs. It's a collaboration, and all of my jobs I think can be traced to something of maybe somebody I knew or someone who knew someone, but I don't think it would have all come out the same if I didn't have them. So
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to ask a little bit about community, because I feel like I've heard your name for years now because we run in kind of similar circles of a community. And I know Ace has played a big part in your story. And I want to loop back to the fact that you're in Ace now. So I'd like to talk about that. But I want to ask about, how do you look at your career and your relationship with other assistants, not just Doc, who's incredible, but like other assistants who are at quote unquote your same level when you started out, and as you guys have all grown together. How has that played a big part in, not just your career story, but your ability to remain sane?
I mean, it's been everything. Like when I was a finalist for the ACE internship, we all the finalists, which was about 10 of us, got together at a coffee shop and met. And that's where I first met Esther and Brad Mead. And the two of them became like the pillars of people that we could just text and call. And my co-intern, when I was selected, Josh Stein, he and I would call each other constantly. I'm like, what's a script note? I don't even know what that means. And having those people to rely on was really, really amazing. But not just on a technical level. I always say that.
No, it's like people to cry with.
Yeah.
This job fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I'm really upset. Can we go get a drink and eat
Yes.
pizza, and I can complain about
Yeah.
this bullshit that's happening?
Yeah. I always say that like Esther and Brad, I've said this to them. I never really realized how much I didn't fit in until I met them, and I did. And because we had such similar views on this craft and how much passion we have for it and the things we wanted to do to make it our career and work toward it, and also our similar senses of humor and the way we could be affected by work and all these things, it just made me feel like I instantly had community and I had friends and I had people that I could lean on. And so those things were everything to me because I also just didn't know anybody in LA at all. I didn't realize that I was meeting like lifelong friends that day, but without all of that, I don't think that I would be as sane because it's a crazy kind of experience, this lifestyle. And if I didn't have someone else to talk to about it, it would be wild.
I feel like it's actually been a good season for some of the post PAs in the last few months, but I've gotten a lot of texts from people being like, I finally got a post PA gig, and I'm like, amazing. And I'm like, and your work doesn't stop there. Now your next thing, I always tell people, is like the next thing you do is find the other post PAs who are post PAing right now, get in a group chat with each other, and be each other's shoulder to cry on, because this job will be one of the hardest you ever do, and like be with people that you can just keep sane about this stuff, or talk strategy. Oh, I want to ask for this thing, or I'm trying to become an assistant editor and I got to talk to so and so. Like,
I'm having trouble with this. What do you do to remember people's lunches? What
Yeah.
do you do to remember the schedule?
Yeah.
You know.
So you finally fulfilled your lifelong dream or your
Yes,
teenage
congrats.
dream.
Oh,
Tell us,
thank
what
you.
was that like? Did that feel like you finally had crossed the finish line you started when you were 15 years old? Or was it just like, oh, this is fun? Like, what was that like?
I mean, it was very surreal. I was very, very grateful to join ACE. I applied. You need 72 months of editing experience.
Oh, I never knew that.
So on my
72 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you have any breaks in between jobs, those months don't count. So it's not from like
So it's only 72 months of you working.
of working months. Yeah.
How
So
many- what is it? I can't even, what's the math on that? 5 years? 5.5 years? 6 years?
6.
Did you get it in those 6, or have you been working on this for like 10? I
Well,
guess?
well, my first one was in 2017 from
Okay.
Good Behavior, and
Yeah.
then I had a year-long break.
Yeah, I was
and
going to say, but that,
Yeah.
but you can't, that's only how,
it was
how many
like
months?
2 months.
2
or
months?
something.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
so-
got 70
yeah.
to go.
70 more months to go.
Yeah, but actually at that time it was only 60, and then like
And then they raised it.
yeah, they raised it, and I was like, no.
They raised it while you were getting
Yeah.
it? So
Yeah.
you still had to get the
Yes.
72.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So in February of 2024, I hit 72 months,
Wow.
and that's the month I applied. Because I was just like, all right, I've hit 72. This is the
Weird,
only
yeah.
thing stopping me. And
Right.
so it was, I did the interview process. I remember they asked me, why now? Like, that was one of the questions. And I
like,
was like,
why not now?
I said, because I hit month 72 and I would
Yeah.
have not been allowed to otherwise.
Yeah. And you're also, I mean, you were an ACE intern. Everything I've known about you over the last years, like you're very involved with ACE and have been for
Yeah.
a very long time.
Yeah.
So it kind of just becomes a point of like, I'm already here, guy. Like I'm
Yeah.
here. I'm helping organize the Christmas party, like
Yeah.
or whatever, you know.
Yeah, no, it was a huge life goal of mine. I feel really honored to be a part of the organization. My goals now are to do more and help more
Yeah.
and give back, because I always felt, even before joining the organization, that so much was given to me, not only just by the ACE internship, but after that, especially by members of the community who would give me their time, their resources, coffee, all the things, phone calls, emails, and none of them half the time knew me. And so I felt just grateful all the time for all of these people that would give me so much when I needed it. And that's all I've ever felt, is just trying so hard to give that back to anybody who asks it of me, because I know exactly how it felt. So I feel very emotional and ingrained in like the ACE community because of that. And so when I was able to join, it was like, this is full circle moment, because it was pretty much 10 years exactly from when I got the internship to when I joined
Wow.
ACE.
Wow.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's like poetic in a way.
I know.
Right?
It's
That's
so
kinda-
poetic.
And I have a plaque from being an intern that says 2015, and then I have a plaque from being an ACE.
Wow.
Oh,
From 10 years
that
ago.
that just gave me chills.
Yeah.
That's
like
awesome.
my heart's all warm now.
Yeah, it was very surreal and exciting.
Wow. You get to put ACE at the end of your
I
Yes.
know.
ACE at the end of your name.
I know, because now I've had 2 credits with that, 2 different shows.
That's
and
sick.
Seeing that is really like amazing.
That's sick.
Our final question that we have been asking people is, what is your dream job?
I already know this, which is it would be a mashup of Mission Impossible and Lady Bird.
Amazing.
That is the most insane answer
That
I've ever
is.
heard. I need to hear this pitch.
Yes.
I have no clue what this means.
Well, so I love coming of age stories
Yeah.
so much, especially female coming of age stories. Lady Bird is a beautiful film. From Pen 15 is like a really close project to my heart. And I love also editing action is probably my favorite thing to edit, besides like really emotional things. And I'm a huge Mission Impossible fan. I love the whole franchise. I mean, they're the best action films ever made. Eddie Hamilton, I love him. I think that would be a dream type of thing to put together, because also Mission Impossible has everything. It's not just action. It's got romance. It's got humor. It's got friendship. It's got drama. You're oscillating really quickly between all those different styles within one film that also has this like complete narrative that's also fun. So I just find them to be brilliant. And then the combination of Lady Bird is like, I don't know, something that involves a coming of age element that has that emotional truth, like I find to be so resonant. Like Lady Bird would be a dream movie for me to have edited, because I think it's beautifully cut and beautifully directed and acted and all these things. The only thing it's missing is like a huge car chase.
I was going to say,
just
so
picturing-
I'm hearing Amelia wants to work on the gritty reboot live action of Kim Possible. That is
Yeah.
the...
Yes, that
Like,
sounds
sounds
like
great.
It's
it.
got to be serious as
Yeah.
fuck Kim Possible.
Yeah.
And
I'm also-
that's what we need to do.
I'm also picturing this coming of age Catholic schoolgirl who discovers that she's
Yeah.
actually a badass.
Yes.
Like,
Actually a
spy.
fucking
See,
spy.
that sounds
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, love it. Let's
This
make
is
it
great.
happen.
Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. Amelia, you're going to spearhead this whole thing. Awesome. We good to go into
Let's go in our splice and spew.
Splice and spew.
Do we want to do resolutions? Kind of fun. It's our January 6th. It's the new year. What are you thinking for the new year?
I barely thought about Thanksgiving. I don't even know what tomorrow is. Unless you do you have a resolution? I just
Seems
I
like he
never
does.
even
No, I
And
don't.
he's
thought
been
about
dying
this.
to share.
I have no
I know,
resolution. I
he's
could also do
been-
a spice and spew. We could just do a regular one, but I thought it's the new year.
Um,
We'll make it. You can either do a spice and spew or a New Year's resolution. We'll do either or.
well, I have a. It's kind of both.
You go.
I recently had something happen at work that is reminded me how important it is to back up your work. Now, I know that as assistant editors and as editors, we all know this. We know that it's important to back up your work. We know it's important to back up your hard drive, back up your laptops, back up your phones, because at work, my entire desktop decided to die, along with the entire code book that I was working on. So I have to start
desktop?
over again.
Like your desktop got wiped, or like the computer got
The
wiped?
computer just stopped working.
Oh,
they couldn't turn it
fuck.
on, and because of these new Mac,
You can't pull the hard drive out.
you can't pull a
It's
hard drive
soldered onto
out.
the board. Oh,
Yes.
You
fuck.
didn't have it on like a thumb drive or something?
No, because I didn't back it up, and that is why my splice for the day
Uh-oh.
is to back up everything, your laptop, your phone. You never know what's going to happen. I take the really weird way of like, I don't like things on the iCloud because everything just kind of like gets integrated. Like I'd rather just kind of know like, okay, pictures on the phone, I have pictures on my computer. I'll just plug it in and back it up. To each his own, whatever you want to do. I also got nervous because of things like the Sony hack. And I'm like, I know that Apple's really secure, but who knows? Who knows? So I back up everything on a hard drive. I have my laptop has like Time Machine on it that I just do to an external hard drive. But just a cautionary tale to people to back everything up somewhere, to have multiple places.
So your New Year's resolution is to back up more.
So New Year's resolution for me is to back up more. Michael.
Okay. I don't have anything. Let me think.
Oh wait, do you want to do you have anything?
Wait, what am I supposed to say?
Oh.
It's either a splice or a spew. It's either like a pro. It's like generally we like to open this up to be a chance for you to
Have your own
complain about
soapbox.
anything in your life that it could have nothing to do with editing, or you can compliment something in your life.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's either a splice or a spew,
Okay.
or because it's our New Year's, if you have a New Year's
Oh,
resolution.
right.
Now,
Yeah.
Michael's
like the
really
entire-
pushing this New
Yeah.
Year's resolution.
Or if you really wanted.
January.
If you really want
It's
it.
2026.
I don't know. Not that I have one or anything that I want to say to people.
I have nothing. My New Year's resolution is okay. I have one. I'll say my New Year's resolution this year is I have been talking about this for a long time, and I have never done it because I'm a little baby who's constantly concerned that I'll fail at this. But I would really like to get a pet this year. I own no pet. I live alone, and I keep talking about wanting to get a cat or a dog or a pet or something. And then every time I always convince myself out of it. I am like pushing towards it like every single day. Like I'm like looking at like adoption websites all the time, but then I'll constantly just like pivot away at the last second. So 2026 is hopefully the year that Michael finally gets a pet, ideally a cat. I keep looking at different cats. So we'll see if it happens, but my New Year's resolution is to get a cat, to get a pet of some kind, something that I can like. I got plants recently, and that was a big thing for me to be like, I'm going to fucking take care of a plant, and I'm not going to let it die. And I'm going to have an app. I have an app where I track how much I'm watering the plants and all this stuff. Like,
How has that been going for
It's
you?
been good. It's been
Great.
good. It's
Love
been
it.
good. Like because I also think like a lot of this is in many ways like how well you're able to take care of something else is indicative of how well you're able to take care of yourself. And I think like it's so easy, especially with our jobs, to just let self-care completely evaporate and die. But if you have something that like in my mind, I'm like, I want a companion to hang out, and I also
I want a
to be-
companion to listen to me cry
I
about
want
my
to-
job.
Exactly. I sit at my desk, just sitting there, and I just think, wouldn't it be so nice? I see all these videos of like cats on people's laps while they just work from home, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? I should have a fucking cat here. So anyway, but I do think it's indicative of like your ability. It forces you to take care of yourself a little bit more if you have something else you're taking care
I
of.
agree.
So
My dog gives me a reason to like.
get up out of the bed.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
for a walk. Get up in the morning. You
I
gotta
think that
feed
was
your
also a
animal.
good splice.
Yeah, so it's a splice, the benefits of pets, and then also a bit
Yeah.
of a bit of a resolution.
You just made me think that. I guess is Splice good?
Splice is
Splice
good.
is good. Spew
Splice is good because you're
bad.
putting
Okay,
things
my
together.
spew-
Yeah.
My
You're
spew
splicing it
is
in.
that I think that 100% work from home jobs should be no.
Totally agree.
That there's no option to go to an office. Obviously, I think working from home is so beneficial in a hybrid workflow,
Yes.
especially for people with families and other responsibilities, or if you're sick and all these things. Hybrid workflow is the way. But if there's no ability to go to an office, or I think like when they say that, it's 100% work from home and there is no office, you can't go anywhere. I'm just so against it. And I just for the first time had to do a job where it was 100% work from home. And I was kind of trying to push for an office, and it would have been that only I had an office. And I was like, well, that's not.
No, the point is to have people.
Yes.
Yes.
And I feel that making something and collaborative storytelling really, it has an effect on the storytelling by being there in person and talking and walking to get coffee and figuring something out between the lines. And, I think now after COVID, pre-COVID, there was never an ability to be 100% work from home. And again, if people want to choose that for their job, great. Like absolutely more power to you. Do your thing. But when there's no option, that's when I get really sad.
100%. Cassidy, you want to do Cassidy's Corner?
I'll do the New Year's resolution. I'll bite. At risk of being crushingly banal and having a New Year's resolution related to exercise, I'm willing to take that risk. I would very much like to get back into running. I used to be super into it. During the pandemic, I ran a half marathon. I was in love with it. I have many hobbies that I enjoy, bring me great joy, like playing guitar, watching films, of course, video games, books. But running was always the one thing that could always center me. It was like my version of everything that can make someone feel better. It was like having a personal fan to blow the clouds out of my mind. I didn't even need music while I run. I can just run 10 miles solo without anything, and it would just make me feel better. So I really want to get that back into my life. And so that's my genuine New Year's resolution, getting that back.
That was beautifully said.
Love it.
Love it.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Sips and Clips. You can find us on Instagram at Sips and Clips Pod, or email us at sipsandclipspod.
And YouTube. We have a YouTube channel now.
We're also on. Well, let me finish the
Sorry.
email first, Michael.
You're right.
The email address is sipsandclipspod@gmail.com. Okay, go ahead, Michael.
YouTube. Michael spent a bunch of time you have to make YouTube videos for each
I
one
know,
of these things.
that's
and
ridiculous,
I had to export
but-
out 40 YouTube videos to get this to work. But,
So,
and
go
you have to
and
upload them in
listen.
order. If you batch upload them, it randomly processes different ones first. So then the episodes get out of order.
So go listen to YouTube because Michael
If you
put
care.
a lot of work into this.
To getting the stupid YouTube channel up.
To get this up there. But thank you for listening, and you keep on sipping.
And we'll keep on clipping.
Bye.
Sips and Clips is a podcast produced by Leanne McFalls and Michael Susterman. Logo designed by Mike Knoll. Production sound by Cassidy Lagan. Post-production sound by Zach Griffin. Follow us on Instagram at Sips and Clips Pod, or email us at sipsandclipspod@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.